I'm Graham from Sungrow, and today I'm going to introduce you to our new SH5K-30 hybrid inverter. This is compatible with low voltage batteries, that is 48 volts, and it has an inbuilt changeover or EPS off-grid switch and an inbuilt DC isolator, so you don't need to install external DC isolators. So I'm going to take the cover off and I'm going to show you how to connect it up, and then we will commission the system. So working from left to right, we have an AC plug which is supplied for the grid connection, AC plug for the backup circuits, genuine MC4 DC plugs for the PV array, integrated DC isolator. There are COM ports here, these glands, where we can run the communication cables from the energy meter and the battery. We have a Wi-Fi port for the dongle and two battery cable connections here, and I'll show you how they connect inside. Now, because there's no external EPS box anymore, there's a lot less wiring. As you can see here, we've got energy meter wiring, battery data cable wiring and battery cables, and that's the only internal wiring that you need to do. So if we zoom in, we'll have a bit more detail on these. And now that we've got all the wiring done, I'm going to put the cover back on and we'll go through the commissioning system. So now I'm going to switch on, so I'm going to switch on the DC, I'm going to switch on the AC, and I'm going to power up the emergency circuit as well. So when this all comes on, this will go into its initialization phase, and once we get it set up, it will power up. Okay. The SH5K-30 will automatically detect which battery is connected to it through the CAN cable, so you don't need to set the battery. So I'll go through each of the settings one after the other. First one we need to set is the country code, and that's the first one up in the initialization screen. So we enter there. It's already set to AU, but if I enter again, I can get some other grid standards here. I'm going to select Osgrid because we're in the Osgrid area, and that will load all the default Osgrid codes. Do that, setting complete, that's fine, and escape back out of there. Now, existing inverter. If there is another inverter on the same circuit, we do need to enable this. In this case, there's a three-phase 5 kilowatt inverter, so I'm going to enable that, and I'm going to enter. I'm just going to put 1,000, I'll put it 1,800 watts because that's the single phase value of the three-phase inverter. And it will give me an option to set the feed-in limit. The default is 5,000 watts. I'm going to leave it at that. And it will ask me to save settings, enter, setting complete, that's fine. So I'll escape back out of there. Zero export. If you do need to set the export, you can do it again in here. As we said before, it's currently set to partial at 5,000 watts, but you can switch it on or off. Switching on, it will not allow any export. Switching it off it will allow everything to export. And this is controlled from the energy meter at the switchboard. So I'm not going to set that. Time, we do need to set the time and the date because there are a couple of functions that rely on the clock. So we do need to make sure that that's set properly. It's already set, so I'm not going to do anything there. Backup setting, yes, you need to enable that. So I'm going to select enable. I'll do that, and it's going to ask me for a reserved capacity. Now what this does is it will reserve a certain amount of the battery's charge to be available only in the event of an off-grid event. So I'm going to set this to 10%, so it will quarantine 10% of the charge, and it will keep it there only for in the event of a blackout. So we know we've always got power. And once again, it will ask me to save, and I've saved that. That's fine, escape back out of there. Then I'm going to exit, asks me to confirm, I hit enter and it will initialize. Now it will go into standby for a few moments and then it will go into startup phase. But what I can see here is that everything's connected properly. These zeros means I've got communication from the meter and I've got communication from the battery. If these weren't communicating properly, I would have a couple of dashes there. That means there's no communication, but I know it's all working. Now, the backup circuit has just triggered, and that's what that light going on. So we'll give this a minute to go through its startup phase, and then we will test the backup. Okay, now that I've switched it on, commissioned it, it's gone through its startup, and I can see that everything's working fine. I'm producing power and it is charging the battery. All that I need to test now is the UPS backup function. The changeover time is 20 milliseconds, so it will be very quick. To test that, I'm simply going to cut the AC supply. And this light should stay on. This is on the backup circuits. There's the backup, that beep, and it says off-grid. So that has changed over into the off-grid mode very quickly. One way to check the energy meter is if you look at this little LED on the left-hand side, the yellow LED, it should be flashing. That means it's communicating with the inverter. If it's on steady, it means there's power applied, but no communication. Ignore that red pulse LED on the right-hand side. That's just a watt-hour pulse. It doesn't matter if that's flashing. But that is your check to make sure the communication between the meter and the inverter's working is the yellow flashing light.